If you ever visit a black person's house, there are bound to be pictures hanging on the wall. Well, when I was growing up, there were just certain pictures you knew were hanging up somewhere. If you were religious, it was Martin Luther King and white Jesus. If you were militant, it would vary, but you wouldn't find no white men on the wall. If you were in the South, it was Martin Luther King and white Jesus. My point being, in black people's houses, other than a historically inaccurate depiction of white Jesus, we are not hanging white people up in the house. Unless... Hello, and welcome back to The Conversation Piece with your host, Akila. In my childhood home, there was this picture that stood out to me more than the rest. It just looked odd. I asked my mom, who is this white man? It was a picture of my great-grandfather on my mother's side, Samuel Thigpen. Why am I mentioning this? Well, recently a friend and I checked out a local play in our area, and afterwards we had quite a bit to say about a variety of topics, one of which was our 23andMe results. While her results informed me that she was, quote, one of the whitest people ever, her words, not mine, my results, however, were illuminating at best and shocking to me. I grew up knowing very little about my genetic background. Besides being African American, I knew I was part Irish, Cherokee Indian, and Blackfoot Indian, hence Samuel Thigpen. But my 23andMe results said, haha, psych! I'll share with you after the break. Hey you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Do you have Spotify? If so, turn on the notification button. You can also find the Conversation Piece podcast on Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, RadioPublic.com, Breaker.audio, and Anchor.fm/Akila Lynch, spelled AQUILA-LYNCH. Thank you for your support. Okay, so here's my breakdown. Can I get a drum roll? Oh, yeah, I have to add a drum roll because I am a one-person team. Drum roll. My DNA suggests, I am 41.5% Nigerian, 11.9% Guyanan, Liberian, and Sierra Leone, 6.7% Senegambian and Guinea, 7.9% broadly West African, 8% Angolan and Congolese, 0.2% Southern East African, 0.9% broadly Congolese and Southern East African. Okay, so I knew I was part European because of the whole, transatlantic slave trade. I know some people are like, she brings this up on every episode. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so back to my whiteness. I did not know how much European I actually was. I told my friend and she was like, girl, you white. My breakdown, 13.9% British and Irish, 3.9% French and German, 2.3% broadly Northwestern European, whatever that means. Well, that's it for Europe. Now this is where it gets spicy. I am 0.6% Filipino and Austronesian, 0.3% Chinese Dai, 0.3% Indonesian, Thai, Khmer, and Myanmar, 0.1% Chinese, 0.2% broadly East Asian. My trace ancestry surprised me as well. 0.3% Northern Indian and Pakistani, 0.2% broadly Western Asian and North African, and 1% broadly Central and South Asian. I also have 0.5% unassigned ancestry. Did not know there was unassigned humans walking around. I also inherited a small amount of DNA from Neanderthal ancestors. They found 46 variants in my DNA that they can trace back to Neanderthals. Scientists sequenced the Neanderthal genome starting in 2010 and discovered most people can trace up to 2% of their DNA to Neanderthals, who are believed to live over 550,000 years ago. And from them sprang 3 lineages: humans on the continent of Africa, Neanderthals in Europe and West Asia, and Denisovans in Asia. My physical traits on my DNA was a section that I found very fascinating. For instance, from my sample, it was predicted that I don't have dimples. I do not. I don't have a cleft chin. I do not. I have dark brown eyes. I do. My ring finger is longer than my index. It is. I don't have freckles. I wish. I have slightly wavy hair. True. They're off on my hair color. They predicted I would have dark brown hair. My hair is black, with an increasing amount of gray coming in, but that's another story. See, my instinct is to dye my hair, but my friends are like, "No, girl, keep it. It looks good." My nieces and nephews, however, like to tease me about my gray, and I retort that this is not gray. This is experience. Some other traits that I found fascinating: I have a 50-50 chance of matching a music pitch. Ha. I supposedly can't smell asparagus. I mean, why would I? But they're wrong. I can smell asparagus. I don't like to, but whatever. I can detect bitter tastes. Okay. I am likely to get a bunion when I get older. Thank you, mother. I supposedly don't like the taste of cilantro. Wrong again. I mean, I don't have a problem with cilantro. I mean, I'll eat it. It's not my go-to herb. I'm likely to have, like, you know, parsley. Anyway, I am more likely to have a fear of heights. Who doesn't? I prefer vanilla ice cream over chocolate. Wrong again. Okay, for me being lactose intolerant, I love ice cream. It's whatever I'm feeling at the time. I am less likely to hate chewing sounds. I mean, as long as the food stays in your mouth, I'm chill. I am more likely to be bitten by mosquitoes. Oh my god, yes. Okay, so apparently the females like the way my body smells. No, seriously. Female mosquitoes can smell their food, and they have preferences based off body odor and breath. Although anyone can be bitten, some of us are considered more delicious. Bon appetit. Just kidding. Because they also can sometimes carry diseases. So, when my friend asked me about my results, she also posed a question to me. She said, "So, what do you think you'll conclude out of all this. She said the world will label you a certain way. You've grown up a certain way, and your DNA labels you another way. I responded, the world has already labeled all of us a certain way. I mean, I have always felt unique and sort of out of place. I don't particularly fit in one group. Like with black people, saying I'm not black enough. And white people saying the same thing. And sometimes when they get too comfortable around me, they'll say things about black people to my face, which gets complicated. It's like, hello, I know I'm not gonna let you let that slide. Like, we live in a world of constructs, man-made. And we are living in a time where people are trying to examine and dismantle some of these constructs to understand the world around us. But we must understand ourselves first and foremost. I feel like a child of the world. Oh, I'm not a child anymore, but we're all connected, whether we want to believe it or not, but we're all being pulled in different directions on purpose to lose our focus. Our purpose on this earth is to make human connections and understand each other and to take care of the earth. And DNA tests like these just illustrate we can't take each other at face value. We're all connected. That's the beauty of our design. The Creator designed us with purpose and intention. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. That's from the Quran, Surah 49, Ayat 13. Hey you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Do you have Spotify? If so, turn on the notification button. Matthew Cook, director and host of the podcast American Origin Stories, stated a notion that I have always known to be true. He said, quote, "As long as there is a war within ourselves, there will be war in the world," end quote. So, it got me thinking about war on a multitude of levels. Because for those of us who are perceptive, we see what's going on locally, nationally, globally. And at the time of me recording this, the two political parties in this country, but primarily and specifically, the Republicans are literally holding the country hostage, as America is on the verge of defaulting on their national debt, and the ceiling is about to collapse, thus affecting millions of Americans with their jobs, healthcare, Social Security, savings, retirement accounts, housing, etc., etc., etc. And it's frustrating. And for some, it's going to be a bit scary. See, I'm worried about what kind of a world my nieces and nephews, and now my great nieces, are going to be living in the same way my mother was worried about what kind of a world she was living in back in the 60s. Sorry, Mom. Didn't mean to age you. But I hope I'm starting to make sense. Mankind has always been at war with each other for several reasons. And unfortunately, war with each other doesn't appear to be disappearing anytime soon. In fact, we may as a species just wipe each other off the earth. Now, of course, the wealthy would want to leave the planet sooner rather than later. Why the urgency to go to Mars, right? I mean, it's not like all the natural resources are being diminished. I'm being sarcastic. A lot of these wars are fought over resources to begin with. And the greed, that is the cause of much turmoil. And the wealthy will exploit that to their benefit, but I'll save that for another podcast episode. See, war is a distraction. Anxiety and fear are used to induce a person from their ability to progress forward. to stifle you into a state of immobilization. And when you're stuck, you're vulnerable. In a state of vulnerability, you will do whatever you need to do to survive. And we see this playing out in the physical world. But what about spiritual warfare? See, this is where the enemy wants you. What enemy? The devil, yes, and there are lots of those walking amongst us, and those are easier to identify. Those outer devils, devilish influences. But there is another form of enemy that at times is quiet, and other times is loud. Who do we also need to be aware of? Ourselves. There are 5 pillars of Islam, and if there was a 6th, there is a consensus that jihad would be the 6th. No, not the jihad that you are socially conditioned to think of. The inner struggle of ourselves. We all battle with ourselves, a lot, more than we want to admit. We as human beings are complicated, we're complex, and there are traits such as arrogance, egotism, that if it's left unchecked, it will consume us. The inner battle is the war you must strive to gain mastery over. You can be your own worst enemy at times, and when you don't know who you are and what your potential is, you are easy to manipulate. So, who are we? We are the Creator's creation, and He is the Alpha and the Omega. He has been here before us, and He will be here long after we have departed from this earth. I am a Muslim, so I know and believe in Him to be Allah, which just translates into the God. And for those of us who believe in monotheism, that concept should not offend you. But Muslims make a distinction, as we do not assign physical form to Allah. Allah is not flesh. He is not mortal. We cannot see Him, but He sees us. But, since I don't know who is listening, and where you're listening from, or what you believe in, and if you believe in anything at all, I'll just say the Creator. The Creator knows what we're capable of. He is our maker. He created us, and He wants the best for us. But He wants us to know and serve only Him. And when you know and serve Him, and reflect His light and the goodly attributes, you have a better understanding of yourself and your purpose on this earth. So, I have to strive to not get deterred by these distractions. The distractions of social media, the distractions of division, the distractions of ignorance, the distractions of hatred, the distractions of greed. And I know that I'll be striving against these distractions and more until my last dying breath. In 2012, I became a published author, and I wrote a book of poetry along with C.C. Robinson, and the book is entitled, There is No Humility in Art. One of the poems I wrote is called Purpose Intended, and I want to share it with you. The Most High already knew His intentions when He fashioned the creations together. Sky, land, water, and last was man. Proclaimed greatness, and the latter was planned. The journey of my life is not over, and every day I am discovering more and more about myself. My 23andMe results didn't change much for me. It's just a genetic blueprint of my makeup. Who I am is more than skin deep. I reveal myself in how I treat others, how I speak about others, the deeds that I carry out, intended or unintended, how I make others feel in my presence. When my name is mentioned, will a smile creep across your face? Will your heart flutter a moment? Will a chuckle erupt from your lips? I hope so. I made a resolution a few years ago to start the journey on becoming a better person, becoming a better Muslim. I know I stumbled here and there, for I am only human, but my course correction is quicker now. And I contribute that to maturity, and the praise belongs to Allah. He knows me better than I know myself. I want to strive to get to know Him better. For inshallah, when I do, I will know who I am. Here's a preview of the next episode. Really, Florida? Really? Amanda Gorman? Really? I mean, what line in her beautiful poem, The Hill We Climb, could you possibly take an issue with? What? We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy? I mean, what? Was it January 6th or the Republicans and a debt ceiling? Oops. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Conversation Piece Podcast. I am your humble host, Akila, requesting that you join me again. So, until then, be safe, love and value yourself so that you can love and value others. I bid you adieu with the greeting, Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you.